Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host. And as you know, the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us thinking, get us connected, get us maybe looking for a bit more, and perhaps inspired or challenged because we've made that connection. Our topic today is healing through vibrations. I don't know if this happened to you when you were a kid, but we talked a lot about good vibes and good vibrations. In fact, I love the song, good vibrations. And there is something to that. We knew instinctively as children that good vibes is important. Maybe we don't use that term as much anymore, but it's a memory bank. And hosting today with me is Rick Bernardo. And Rick suggested that we do a sound bath.
Yeah, I've mentioned sound baths before because we had with us Charity Barlas before on the phone. This is a little different, so we can have a bath of sound. Anyway, we'll go into a little more of that. But I was going to mention, I was fascinated years ago reading a scientific study noting about babies are born knowing music. They know tones. They know low tones compared to high tones. They don't know English or any other verbal, representational, logistical language. But they know the music of oh, and they know the music of ah, and they know rhythm. And so I'm fascinated. It's such a basic part of being human.
It's calling to our humanness, I think. Certain sounds and certain vibrations. And Charity Barlas, as our friend Rick mentioned, has been on our show before. But we asked her to bring her bowls. Now, if you're watching, because we're on Facebook, we have her beautiful bowls that are engaging and delightful, and we'll learn more about them throughout the whole show. Charity has a program, a business called Return to You Coaching, and it's her passion to guide individuals that work with her to a life of alignment, optimal health and vitality, and support and motivate individuals to realize that lasting lifestyle changes by creating personal and achievable wellness plans are available to meet everyone's unique needs. So, Charity, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here today.
Well, we're delighted to have you. It's kind of, I love hearing the history of how this got started and why you were drawn to this. So if you could just give us kind of big picture about what drew you to do the work that you're doing, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your bowls that you brought today.
Absolutely. Initially, it started in 2012 when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I went deeper into my health journey and different components of that: physical wellness, mental wellness, spiritual wellness. And it really was a catalyst for me to go deeper in that work myself and then also guide others on that path.
It's interesting, this last couple weeks, where I work also got us on Virgin Pulse, which is an app, and you can learn things. And I was fascinated with gut health because I hear people talk about gut health, and I really don't know what that means. So I actually did a 7-day overview of what does gut health mean, and I had no idea that it impacted even our skin and our sleeping. So I know that's an issue that was part of what you were looking at as a challenge, and I'd love to have you share with the audience what you dealt with.
Absolutely. Primarily with the fibromyalgia, I had chronic widespread pain and headaches and a pain in my stomach as well. And I was actually advised to go gluten-free and try that option. Now, keep in mind, everybody's different. We're all unique, just like the snowflake. So what works for me might not work for others. However, I was at that point willing to try anything because
Yeah.
I was in a lot of pain. And going gluten-free actually helped me a lot, and it also gave my gut an opportunity to digest items that, weren't thoroughly being digested and processed. But returning to your gut and the microbiome, it's really fascinating because 90% of our serotonin is developed in our gut. And if our microbiome isn't functioning properly, we're not receiving the feel-good chemicals, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
I would miss it.
Yes. So being really mindful about eating with balance. I mean, if you're craving a donut, eat that, but then also maybe balance it out with some protein and some sauerkraut later or something, Get
the veggies in an interesting way.
Exactly. I mean, I encourage myself and clients and my daughter to, eat like the French do. Don't deprive yourself, but also just invite that balance and nourishment.
Something else that I've read in some of your work that you've put out there on the internet for us is that sense of self-love is really difficult in the time that we're in. Women especially are, feel fulfilled perhaps, or think that they feel fulfilled by serving others and helping others, but you deplete. And how much richer it can be when you first love yourself. There's more to love in others.
Absolutely.
So I know that you're on a journey of, what does that mean to discover self-love?
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting that into the conversation because first and foremost, if we are not in connection with the love that we actually are, we're projecting all of these other unprocessed wounds and parts of ourselves that might not be love. But we're inundated in our society of messages of not being enough, and we have to really feel into the love that we are. I invite people here and now as you're listening, feel into the love that was present when you were a little baby. We're pure source energy. We're pure love. We are still that. And we need to remember it's not what we look like. It's not what we drive. Yes, some of those things are fun, but that's not what it's about. And sometimes the self-love journey is really hard and really dark. And oftentimes people don't like themselves. I started out that way. I did not like who I was. I didn't know who I was. Growing up, I was told, I was condemned a lot, that I was going to hell.
That's
right.
Ugh.
So a lot of different things to navigate. And I think the biggest thing with self-love is starting with that grace and compassion. And maybe you don't feel like you love yourself, but maybe start with something that you do like about yourself. Even if it's, I like my hair, or I like my middle toe, whatever it is.
I love
Starting with really small incremental steps is huge.
The reason I think that's so cool, well, there's a lot of reasons. It just is, but it's like sometimes it's hard to find that muscle in us, that emotional, spiritual, ontological muscle is like self-care. If you haven't practiced it, you're like, where is that in me? How do I? And once you find it, finding it can start with just something small like that. So that's great. And I have memories, strong memories of being very close to various women who are mothers raising children. And the one thing they eventually noticed when they were on this path that you're talking about is that their kids may or may not remember what they're being told and wanting to be taught, but they definitely are watching their mother and they're learning how to take care of themselves from that. And so that's like, uh-oh. Now, it's a good uh-oh, more like, okay, there's more incentive there to be how you want your kids to be too, and it's all the same sort of love.
What I'm also appreciating is last week we were exploring, Martin Luther King through the Sounds of Blackness guests. And Martin Luther King was about love. You know, he talked about you can't fight hate with hate. You can only fight hate with love. And this year in particularly, I think we really need to keep focusing on how do we be love? How are we love? And when it is dark and we're looking for light in a world right now that has a lot of darkness, bringing it first forth through our own self-love, I think, is the first step.
Absolutely. It's when we can remember that and embody that and mirror that to others. I mean, feel into the ripple effects of that, you know.
I have a question now because I know our next segment, we're going to actually have you provide us a sound bath. I'd like you to share what a sound bath is so that folks can understand what they will be going. We will be inviting everyone to participate in a sound bath. And then you can tell us a little bit about the bowls that you brought today.
Absolutely. So a sound bath is essentially where one gets to experience a variety of vibrations and sounds. So today I have the crystal bowls, and I play them, and they play off of each other. They have their own connection, and they sing. And I also have with me my beloved chimes and rain stick, and then I sing through my drum, which amplifies my voice. And as everything is played in harmony and divine union, I feel, it washes over people. We are 70% water, and the sound bath will actually vibrate your cells internally, which is just incredible to me.
Kind of bizarre and cool.
It is, yeah. I mean, truly. And I mean, I know this is a side tangent, but I've had people come up to me afterwards saying they feel so different, so much lighter. I've had people have beautiful releases where they just weren't able to cry before, but they were able to cry and able to release that energy. Just so many beautiful things.
One thing to mention, I've been to, how many have I been to? Less than 20, but more than 4, maybe 4 or 5. I've been to the sound baths, that's my point. And been in them is a better way to put it. It's a hard experience to describe because you're not just listening to these tones that we'll be hearing, but it's like your body is, I mean, it's not vibrating like an earthquake, but you just feel different because you're absorbing these different frequencies.
And we're not sure how this will go over the airwaves, but we're hoping. Well,
you get some idea
that you'll be able to capture. You certainly are going to have a richer experience should you go to a sound bath that Charity is providing, and I want to encourage that. But this is a taste of it. We will, in the next segment, have Charity. We will explain a little bit to kick it off, and then she will be playing with the bowls as well as singing and her drum, and periodically she'll say a few words for us to be thinking about. So we're going to invite in our second segment less conversation and more welcoming of how we feel when the vibes are given to us by these lovely bowls. So stay with us.
And if you want a shot of healing, this might be serve as a sound bath, sound shower, maybe. And go to charitybarlass.com, and there's more all about this.
Charity Barlass, and that's BARLASS. And we'll be right back after a few commercials. Good morning and welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host. And on our show, we like to talk about ideas that matter. And today we're going to explore ideas that matter in a new way. Not in conversation, but experientially. The idea of a vibration and the idea of healing. With me hosting today is Rick Bernardo, who has gone to lots of sound baths.
I did. I got bathed and came out cleaner.
In music.
in a
music.
harmonic way.
Yeah.
And I know Charity, by the way, through Scott Harold.
Oh, hi, Scott. I know
CEO
he's
Rock the
listening.
Cause. And so talk about connections. These are the kind of connections we follow.
And thank you, Scott. Scott, Rock the Cause produces great music where a percentage goes back to nonprofit causes. So thank you for all that you do.
And helps with their records and all kinds of things now. Yeah.
So Charity Barless runs a business called Return to You Coaching. She hosts sound baths. Sound baths are part of a experience with bowls. And I'm just going to have you reacquaint the audience a little bit about what the bowls are, and then we're going to go into a sound bath experience with Charity guiding us in this segment.
Sounds great. Thank you. So the bowls that I play, they are crystal bowls, and I initially started with one. It's the root chakra bowl. I have lovingly called her Big Bertha.
She is lovely.
And I also have the heart chakra bowl here, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the throat chakra. And these open up different energy centers within our body for deeper alignment and flow.
And with that,
And by the way, she was going by size from large to small.
Yes, and the bowls that I have present here. I don't
Yeah.
have my crown one here today.
Oh, okay.
so with that, Charity, I know that this is to be focused on self-love, and I look forward to what you bring us through your sound bowls.
Thank you. May we remember. May we remember that we are love. you remember, may you embody, may you know your wholeness. Dear soul, you are whole. Dear soul, you are whole. May we have the courage. May we have the courage may we have the courage to love all parts of ourselves. May we have the courage to sit with discomfort. For there is wisdom in it all. May we create space May we create space May we create space to listen, to feel into our body's wisdom and guidance, to listen to our ancestors and higher power, to listen to our intuition, for they are guiding you home.
Thank you, Charity. It's wonderful for us to have the opportunity to do something very different that radio does not generally take time and patience to open ourselves up to. We are in a very fast-paced society that encourages us to talk fast and think fast and move on to the next. And you've encouraged us to slow down. You've encouraged us to listen within and not just listen without. I loved how different parts of the bowls did bring out different parts of what I felt comfortable and what I felt uncomfortable. There was, as I was getting, looking at what needed to happen next, because I'm also needing to make sure I support this as the host. But when I started getting a little anxious, I thought, well, why am I anxious? What's that about? And where am I feeling that anxiety? And where am I feeling that sense of responsibility to the audience here? Which I haven't left you. I am here. I am being responsible. But how to share that differently and allow for some space, as you have mentioned, to encourage us to just take a little time out and remember we're loved. And how often do we do that? How often do we take that time and say, I'm kind of cool. I want to hang with you a little bit because I'm kind of cool.
Yeah. And I was going to say that the times I've been to these sound baths with the Charity, I look back and thinking probably the most not the most significant, but the one that made a difference was just going to it, just going. So I'm going to commit to, especially since the first one, I was just like, I wasn't afraid or anything, but I was just like, I'm sure I'll like this. And the most important thing was committing to, like, I'm going to do this for myself. And that's the foundation for doing this for anybody else too. And it's not like we're always separate from people.
The question that I have for you is, when you do your sound baths, how do they feel to you differently? Do you have a different sense when you're doing these at different times? And just tell us about what those experiences are for you as well in leading it.
Absolutely. I do want to touch on what Rick said real quick.
Sure.
Regarding choice and choosing to nourish yourself and show up. Because oftentimes after the sound baths in person, people will come up and hug me and say, thank you so much. This was so beautiful. And I say, of course, but I also want to reflect that back to you, because you chose to be here. You chose to nourish yourself in this capacity. And it was your choice, your autonomy that brought you here. So thank you for inviting that in, Rick. And then back to you, Lori, regarding what I feel. So I play intuitively, and before each sound bath, I pray to be a vessel for what people need to feel and receive during the sound baths. And a lot of time, I will spend a lot of the time playing the heart chakra bowl, because I feel like the frequencies and vibrations within the heart chakra bowl opens us up in a way that a lot of us might not have experienced before. And I love playing my heart chakra and the root in unison, and I intentionally place them next to each other so they can play and connect in different ways, because we need that root energy to ground in. And Lori and I were actually talking before the show, and she's like, root is like, it provides us a deeper sense of belonging. And so playing the root and the heart often, it connects us with that belonging, that depth, and then openness through the heart. So I feel into people's energy and play what I feel like is meant to be shared.
Tell me your first time that you experienced the sound bowl, and what, and then how you. I know Bertha was your first. How you picked Bertha,
Yeah.
and then how you picked the other bowls.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've listened to a lot of sound baths and meditations, and I've loved music ever since I was little. But the first time I got to experience one in person was actually in 2020, right before the world shut down, before the pandemic. And I was at a retreat, at a Sacred Sisters Circle retreat in California. And on the agenda was a sound bath and cacao circle. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. But I had no idea how amazing it was really going to be. And so I just laid and received. And when I was listening, I could just feel different parts of me opening that weren't open before. I don't really know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's just such a profound shift that I felt. And then after that, it was very clear that I was meant to also offer these sound baths and offer this medicine to others. And so I initially invested in Big Bertha, my root chakra bowl here.
And for those who are not watching, Big Bertha is a big red bowl that is just gorgeous. She carries herself magnificently.
And then I slowly added to the family from there. So
And the next one is the heart.
the next one is the heart. Yes.
That's the green second in size in terms of largeness. And how many total? 6, 5?
Well, there's 7.
There's 7.
I don't have the third eye bowl yet.
Oh, come on.
Yet.
No. No, this is enough for now, right? But so on the website, I got confused because there was only 4 in the pictures. It's a gorgeous website, by the way. Go look at the bowls if you can't see them here. But so you've got 4 of them in the pictures, and you own 6.
I do, yes.
Or they own you, or whatever.
And we did
They're part of me.
Yeah.
And Charity came early to set these up. This is
Yeah.
traditionally they're not moved a whole lot. And she does it from sitting on the floor, and so we've elevated the bowls as well today. So it's a new experience for the bowls as well.
Yes, definitely. If you go to a sound bath, there's no microphones all over the place like this. And it's not necessarily on the table, and there's no video necessarily. But it's But you set it up. There's candles. It's a beautiful room. There's yoga mats. It's just like as soon as you go there, you're like, okay, I'm ready.
And with that, would you share her website? With
Her
the
website,
audience?
Charity Barlass, BARLASS.com. And charity, just like, giving self-love.
That's right. And the name of her business is Return to You Coaching. And with that, we're going to move to commercial. But we will have one more segment to talk about this wonderful experience, as well maybe have just a little bit more for us to go into the world with self-love. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. We also experience ideas that matter, as we have today, because our topic's been healing through vibrations. And I started off the show with going back to the old song, Good, 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 Good Vibrations. But as we were experiencing the show today, it's really a realization that it's not just about looking for the good vibrations. Sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes we need to open up and experience all of it and not make judgments as to whether if it's good or bad. It just is. And allowing that and allowing the experience. So our good friend, Charity Barless, that my co-host Rick Bernardo has gone to her sound baths, has invited Charity to be with us today, and has advocated for us to do sound bathing with our audience.
Yeah.
So if you've missed the sound bath part in the last segment, I encourage you to listen to our show. You can go to the podcast. You can go to am950radio.com. You scroll down, you see connections, and you'll be able to listen to the show.
Look for Lori Fitz Connections Radio. There's a logo there, and there's all kinds of most podcast sites have it, and the video on Facebook and the video on YouTube. It'll all be great to experience. Speaking of,
you were going to share a little bit about your experience and your experiences with sound bath.
Well, it just occurred to me towards the end of this recent sound bath. By the way, so the room is vibrating. I don't know what you're hearing if you listen or watch, but there's something else going on in person. So it's another dimension of it, literally. 3-dimensional, maybe even other dimensions than 3. But it occurred to me only towards the end of that, oh, you know what? For most of my life, I've been the king of being in my head. I'm great at thinking, great at analysis, editing, professor, all of that. Things in life don't always lend themselves to figuring out in your head. And I only finally recently in the past couple of years found we talked about this at the top of the show. It's hard to find that muscle in yourself that is taking care of yourself. But this is another muscle that's part of that for me, where I call it the letting go muscle. So I'm not chewing on something in my head, because that doesn't go anywhere a lot of times. It's just you get obsessed with something. And I'm sure if you ever had a conversation with somebody and they're not in the room, you know what I mean. Like they're not even around and you're still thinking they're there. I somehow got a way to just stop that. That makes a huge difference. And it's related to going to these sound baths.
There's also some other really important benefits of sound baths. You've mentioned stress reduction, that we're in a society that is highly stressful, and just being able to have some of that melt away and sense into the potential of tranquil is a lovely opportunity. Deep relaxation. Want to talk a little bit about what that allows?
Absolutely. So regarding touching on what Rick was saying about if you're stuck in your head or ruminating often, this space that we offer with the sound baths, it is truly indescribable, where you actually get to drop in deeper into your being and your union with God or your higher power or whatever you want to reference. I don't know, I'm having a hard time describing it, truly.
Well, one thing that strikes me is with mindfulness, which has become more and more popular as we realize that being in the moment is important, that this enhances that mindfulness. It creates a setting, an opportunity, because we do chatter in our head. And part of the mindfulness exercises is to start letting go of that chatter, and because we're not present when our head is chattering. So how do we open ourselves up? And it really does tune us into that.
Absolutely.
The opportunity to be in a meditative atmosphere. Some energy alignment. You've seen that too?
Yes, absolutely. And one thing regarding self-love is these also give you an opportunity to receive. And that's a huge part of loving yourself, is actually receiving and allowing that love in from others. So the space in the sound baths, it also offers a beautiful space for you to receive.
One thing I've been go ahead.
I've heard it said by gurus, basically, that if you are not able to receive, that's just the other side of the same cloth as giving. If you're not going to be versatile at serving others unless you know the other side of that as well, and are good at that.
Some of the things I've been working on lately is improving my sleep. I rarely get past 6 hours. When I get to 6 hours, I'm delighted. But I know getting more would be helpful. This also is part of boosting creativity. There can be an emotional release. You talked about how some people at the end are opening themselves up to allow themselves to cry where they may not have for years, and enhancing our focus. Mm-hmm. So any of those that you want to touch on as we're wrapping up the show that moves you today?
I want to circle back to releasing the emotions because, oftentimes people don't feel comfortable crying, especially, or feeling into their anger. And it essentially gives you like a metaphysical permission to feel and to be with what you're experiencing. And with this silence and presence of the energy in the bowls in the room, there's space for it all. And I say that at the beginning because I truly want everyone to receive what they need to feel and experience. And so with the emotions, oftentimes depending on what state our nervous system is in, oftentimes a lot of us are disassociated or in a freeze state and we can't feel or numb. And I feel like this has woken people up in a way that I haven't actually witnessed before. So seeing someone emote at the end and just being able to be held in a hug or just loving energy is so sacred to me and really, really beautiful to witness.
We all need metaphysical and other permissions to go in certain places of our lives, inside and out. Martin Luther King, we've been talking about a few programs, said, "I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be," and he says vice versa. And again, we just urge people to take care of themselves and others, both.
And with that, I'd love to close the show with you sharing a little bit more of these vibrations with us.
It'd be an honor.
and charitybarlast.com. Go to that website.